right. Okay, it is Sean Hogan who's going to talk about the piece of accountability report. Oh, yes, I'm here.
Okay. Oh, what's next?
That's in the board book later, the license, by the way.
That's what I thought. I was going to answer.
All right.
You want to be
Just as while he's getting organized there, just a quick remark that next April we have our accreditation visit. One of the things they want to see now is that we've been showing you this kind of data about student success and where we are throughout the institution and all the way to the Board of Trustees. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay, so in keeping with that theme of our success in working in the area of diversity, tonight I'll talk about some of the progress we have been making and some of the work we have to do in this regard. Graduation and transfer is that big mile marker that we like to look at. This shows us a couple of things on this table. The outcomes of 4 recent cohorts of students. Remember, these are first-time, full-time, degree-seeking students out of the total population we have here. The numbers that appear next to the lines are the number of students who are African American, white, Hispanic, or African American in each of those cohorts. So you have a sense of the size of those cohorts. Over the last few years, there looks to be progress for our white students, our Asian students, and more recently for our Hispanic students going upward. Our African American students, it's been a little more of a bumpy ride right now with an increase in 11 to 14, the students who came in 11, and we tracked them until 14. And for the students coming in 12 to 15, it's remained high from the trough in 10 to 13, but it edged down just a bit. As you see, the size of the African American student population has declined somewhat. Whites have declined also, and the Hispanic, you know, is the largest, fastest growing part of our student body, and that has grown from about 20% to 28% of our cohort overall. This shows us what's going on with their retention of our students. While the graduation rate for our African American students has not had a consistent upward path, their retention has been. And I'm hoping that over the next few years we'll see that perhaps what is happening with them, we're seeing a little evidence of this, is that at the end of their first semester, their course load drops a little bit. So they go from being full-time to part-time, and they may be taking a little bit longer to get to the graduation point. But we will see in the next few years when those 150% points are met, if they remain retained with us and onward into the 200% time, if they're just taking a little bit longer to get to the graduation point. With the other racial groups, we see more of a plateau where things are holding fairly steady right now. Overall course success for all of our student groups has been at a bit of a plateau. It is increasing a bit for our African American students. The numbers I'm showing you here are the numbers of classes that our students are enrolled in. And those generally correspond with the overall proportions of the student body, and it's not tied directly to the cohort here. So we're seeing a bit of an upswing for our African American students. Success rates that have been at about 55% are now hovering in the low to mid 60% neighborhood. In our key developmental math courses, Math 102 and 108, we see a much more pronounced improvement in outcomes for our African American students in the last couple of years. From 2012 forward to just this year, their success rates, while still low, starting out in the mid-30s, has inched forward into the mid-40s, from the low to mid-30s to the mid-40s. There's a steady but small upward tick for our white students, and the Hispanic students, as the student population has grown, it has hovered in the 45% neighborhood. In math overall, again, we see a pronounced upward swing for our African American students and a bit of a plateau for everyone else. Now, some of the work that we're doing, we talked about a little bit earlier, you know, some of the interventions we have for our students, particularly our minority students like Sister to Sister and Men of Vision, the work that they do in peer mentoring and working with the students to align them with coaching, with tutoring, and helping them gain leadership skills. We all know that you know, student engagement is a good way to help students find their way to success, aligning them with the resources that they need through peer mentoring, and opportunities like this are designed to help them. These groups are doing more in especially in recent months, to do a better job of ensuring that their members stay committed and involved. You heard from our student trustee about the commitments that they're making to be engaged in the programs that they offer. Staff leadership on these committees are monitoring GPA and course outcomes for these students, and knowing when to engage them with supportive services. And we're working with these students on financial literacy, financial aid opportunities, and these groups are working more diligently in terms of assessing their own outcomes and assessing where they are engaging in best practices from the research literature in student development and from our own monitoring and experience. More staff-oriented organizations like our African American Student Success Committee and Latino Outreach Committee are working to retain students and make sure that they are accessing the types of services we offer that are especially tailored to their needs. So, and that concludes my remarks. Do you have any comments or questions for us?
Do we have any data yet on the coaching initiatives that we put forth? Or is it too soon to know whether they have had, I mean, maybe even first semester, do we have any data on whether they've had success in their developmental math and in their continuation rates?
Yes, we've assessed those programs. They are showing a good bit of progress in meeting the student needs. And we're monitoring how much intervention they're having and then the grades at the end of the terms.
So it's having a positive impact.
Yeah, we're continuing to learn kind of where the sweet spot is for supporting students.
Right. And trying to encourage other students to avail themselves of those services.
Yeah, one of the things that we're finding is that students are now self-identifying before they even get alerted, which is a great sign, because students are, that's a motivating factor. And they're motivated to come forward to get help versus getting alerted by a faculty member. Typically when they're alerted, it's already off the rails. And so the fact that they're getting help earlier is important.
It's also showing that the students know about these opportunities that are available, and they're taking the next step of saying, I need these. So,
have we done anything yet with the volunteer mentors?
We've been using an OMD.
Oh.
We use it, we use
I mean,
it.
was it Nancy Cook, I think, that talked with us about volunteer mentors?
Yeah.
Have we done anything with that?
Yeah, we turned that over to the Faculty Senate. We talked to Rick Solar about talking with the Faculty Senate about how to make that work.
Is that something we can look at happening by fall?
Once the Faculty Senate comes back in, we'll take that up.
They may not, the faculty senate, we'll see what they want to do.
Free help?
We'll see.
I know in other cases we've asked for volunteers and we've not gotten a lot of feedback.
We are, though, through human resources, the other piece of what Nancy was saying, we are looking at how we can use volunteers there and building a framework for that. So.
Right, identifying opportunities and then being able to have a method to post it and get out to the retiree group. So we plan to talk to them at their lunch.
Yeah, which I should mention that. So August 11th, we'll be sending something out to all of you if you want to attend this. But we have that annual retirees event. Usually brings in 120, 150 retirees who attend it now. I think we're in our third year. So we usually have it in June, but we pushed it back to August 11th so we can have it in the new facility. And then we're going to give tours. And then along with it, we're going to be inviting, and we already have some people who've decided to join this, but we're going to create a legacy society and see what opportunities the retirees want to participate in.
Wait, is that giving or is that mentoring? Or is that all of the above?
So the retirees lunch is one where we just keep them up every year on that, but it's also an opportunity where we're going to say to them, by the way, if you want to participate, here's these volunteer opportunities. But we give them a range of, we kind of update them on the college, and then things like this that come up, here's an opportunity to volunteer. Would any of you like? We'll have 125 retirees in one place.
What about the alumni as a resource for that?
Well,
Or
that's that's part of what we used for the 1 million degree programs, were community people and some of our alumni to mentor them. So.
I had a question on the report. Can we go back to where we talking about completion rates or completion for the different population groups there?
This one?
Yeah. Is there a part of the reason for having a lower completion rate? Do we know what percentage of this African American group may have part-time jobs or maybe full-time jobs? Or is that a part of the evaluation as far as why, do we look at job situation, employment situation?
We do ask the students periodically in survey research if they're engaged in work outside of the classroom. And we know that a large proportion of our students do work. I don't know the number offhand of our African American students who are identified, but I could get that information for
Is
you.
that something that can be really
Interesting.
broken
Yeah.
out?
Yeah,
Because
no,
I'm
that's
thinking
good,
that,
yeah.
if people are working, that's probably their highest priority.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Right.
that's a good, we'll
It's
take a look at that.
It's one of the biggest
Yeah.
challenges
Yeah.
to student success, that our students are
Right.
working too
Absolutely.
many hours. And so if you've noticed in some of our scholarship programs, one of the things that we've tried to say is, look, we don't want you to work more than 20 hours
Right.
a week, and 20 hours a week is still a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah,
Transportation to and fro.
sure.
So, and there was another schedule here that talked about the programs, the Minivision,
Mhm.
Sister to Sister. Can you go back to that just there?
Mhm.
Just wanted to,
Yeah, it's at the end.
Okay,
Oh,
right there.
There you go.
all right, so these are very decent programs, of course, for student
Yeah.
engagement. But if you have some trouble with financial aid and you need to work, then it's not likely that they're going to join another club, right? Because they are probably looking for more hours. Is there an opportunity for maybe campus work? What did we call that when I was?
Work study.
Work study, yeah.
We certainly do, a certain amount, and then we still fund some of that ourselves too. So we get the federal funds, and then we also budget for additional funds for student work. But I'll tell you, that's another very good point. Why don't we take a look at some of the data around success of students who are work study students? Because maybe we'd come back to you and say, why don't we invest in more work on campus as much as we can, or finding ways to help the students work more?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because, they have to work, and they
Yeah.
have to bring in some additional income. These obviously programs are good, but better if they can get paid. And also if there's any internship programs that are available for these students where, they're working and also increasing their intellectual capital as well.
Sure.
But I really would like to see the relationship between the students who are working, part-time versus, full-time, that can be broken out too, and their success rate. It's got to have something to do with it. And
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
you can talk until you're blue in the face about
Sure.
these programs.
Yeah.
But if we have an underlying lack of financial support, then we won't be able to increase those.
A lot of the Minivision students, they are working, but like you say, the student has to make that choice somewhere,
That's right.
Do I then have to shift part-time, do I have to, and all of that, so.
Well, the choice will be made for them
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I know our counselors and advisors do, and our coaches, is sit down with them and kind of come up with a plan and say, you know, how many hours are you working? How many credit hours are you taking? You should be studying this many hours, and try to map that out for them so that they
I
can
think
see.
that's great, and if you can build a story about, okay, our students are not successful because they have to work so many hours, you can actually take that to the community and say, listen, we need more jobs. Can you please, you know, provide something, you know, the community, there's a lot of employers in this community who can provide well-paid jobs to get these students to complete. And these jobs could be a little bit more flexible than the jobs that they may probably currently have. So,
One of the things I've asked our career planning and placement office to explore is this idea of creating, for lack of a better term, an employer of choice for CLC students.
sure.
That
Sure.
would do just that.
Sure.
That would have be more flexible in their scheduling.
Mhm.
So I know that they're looking at that and how do they go out and recruit those kinds of.
Student-friendly employers.
Exactly, yeah.
Absolutely.
All righty.
All right.
Okay, thank
Well,
Thank
you know,
you. Good question.
as you're going down that line there, I know, at least in the career and tech ed area, you've got advisory committees for every one of those. That would be a great place
Yeah.
to start.
Yeah, that's not a,
Yeah.
that's one to look up to.